Wrestling Republic. Wrestling Republic. This is Wrestling Republic. Wrestling Republic. This is Wrestling Republic.
What is going on, everybody? We apologize for the slight delay, but we are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It's Thursday, December 5th, believe it or not. And I don't have a cool Jay-Z reference like I did yesterday, but we are going to break down AEW Dynamite. So I'll say it's Thursday, and you know what that means. And there's my cool reference of the day. Now we're talking. I'm Clark Taylor. I'll be hosting today. I've got two of my good buddies hanging out with me, ready to talk some Dynamite, some pro wrestling, and I'm stoked to get into it. I can't get rid of this dude out of DMV. I'm going to introduce him first. We basically do every show together. We've pretty much been hanging out all week. Shoddy, what is
Well, I told you, bro, I need to shirt a Clark Taylor guy in regards to you hosting the shows and all the other non-daily shows we do. But I'm good, bro. It's Thursday. You know what that means, man. I love doing these Thursday shows. Dynamite is in full effect. It is probably one of my favorite times of the year on the Dynamite calendar, the Continental Classic, and we had some banger matches last night and a lot of eventful stuff on the road to, this month of December, which is jam-packed for them. So let's get into it.
100%. I'm stoked to get into it. And one thing we can't do is get into it, though, without sending it across the pond to a guy I haven't seen in far too long, at least not in person. We've chatted. Of course, we're in the same fantasy football league, and that's both footy and American football, but that's neither here nor there. I'm talking about one of the great reviewers and great writers over here at WR, and that's Mr. David Sheldon. What is going on, my friend?
Hello, everybody. Very excited to be back. I think my mic's just a little bit low, so I'm just going to raise it slightly. Very, very excited to be here to talk Dynamite. Obviously, anyone who has been following the site may have seen I've not been doing the Dynamite reviews over the last few weeks. The wonderful Archie Carter has been taking that over for me as I'm on a slight break until January. So I will be back doing the Dynamite reviews from January. Very excited for that. But yeah, excited to talk about Dynamite on a podcast form. With some wonderful people, and it's a very interesting show, so let's get straight into it.
Absolutely. And monster shout out to the Archdog for filling in.
Big Arch, baby.
But at the same time, we know you're not missing Dynamite. You're just on a hiatus. You're a busy guy, David.
I gotta say,
things going on.
I gotta say this: Big Arch is the GOAT. He is arguably one of the funniest dudes in the chat. But Big Arch, hope you're watching this.
Yeah, monster shout out. You deserve your monster shout out.
No, hold on. Tone down the Liv Morgan hate, okay?
Yeah, what is this deal with the Liv Morgan?
Jacking that.
Yeah, no, that is a good point, by the way. Now that is not a topic on today's show, but we could break that one.
Salute to Arch, man. He's the man though, for real.
Okay, let's talk about the Continental Classic though, out of the gates, my friends. And I want to talk about all of the Continental Classic stuff that's going on with last night's show, but I really, really, really want to address the one that I think stood out the most, and that's Sheldon and Fletcher.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kyle Fletcher and Shelton Benjamin, if you'd have told me January 1st of this year, like, hey, there's going to be this Wednesday night Dynamite Continental Classic match in December, and you're going to be fired up for Shelton Benjamin and Kyle Fletcher, and it's gonna deliver, I'd have been like, what world are you? What alternate universe is this? But this is where we are. This is where we are in December, and I loved it. Heck of a match. I mean, either guy could have won. Fletch gets the win. I don't know. I don't know if the predictability of the finish was the only thing I was disappointed about, but it was like the only thing I could possibly complain about coming out of it. Shot, I'm going to start with you, and then David will go to you as well. Dude, this match, and then we'll get into the rest of the Continental Classic right after.
Yeah. I said it yesterday when we did the preview to the show. Kyle Fletcher, as I call him, King Kyle, the prototype, is probably my favorite AEW superstar at this current time. I feel like he has a lot of reminiscence of a young Randy Orton to me. Just maybe even bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic from Randy back in the day. It's no shot on Randy, but Kyle Fletcher is a very special talent, and he gets it. He's picking up stuff very well, and that's off of character base. But even in ring wise, I feel like a lot of his, just facial expressions, heel tactics, all of that is kind of meshed and gelled in together. And I feel like he's improved vastly from when I first saw him kind of get into the brings of AEW, obviously with the tag team stuff prior to it as well. But he's really solidified himself as a single star. But Shelton Benjamin, man, this is something that we have to pay notice to because Bobby Lashley is the big time signing. MVP is the big time manager. But out of everyone in the Hurt Syndicate, as of now, and I know it's super early, so we got to give it its time, Shelton Benjamin has been the shining star. He is the guy in the Hurt Syndicate that kind of matches the vibe of what AEW is the best. And this is just like a new life, man. This is like legitimately a new Shelton Benjamin that is wrestling in front of our eyes, a more physical, a more strong, brute style, just completely going back to his wrestling background, just German suplexing people. And I think these guys had an incredible showing last night, as expected. The finish, I will agree, a bit predictable, but I'm not upset about it because I do think it is important for Kyle Fletcher to kind of get on this momentum, win big-time matches, solidify him, because I do think AEW looks at this kid as a potential main event guy. You got to keep him strong. He wanted heel tactics, not too mad at that. And plus, the backstage segment with Shelton and MVP, MVP acting like Coach Prime to Shador Sanders when she threw a couple picks in the game, just yelling at him, right? And then him just completely pushing the people backstage, hurting people. We hurt people.
Hurt business. Syndicate. It's the syndicate now. I will say this, too. When it comes to Kyle Fletcher, Shad, you and I discussed him often, especially early in the year. And if anyone knows me, they know that there's almost nothing in the world that I hate more than admitting that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I was wrong about Kyle Fletcher. He's really good. Sure. He's like really good.
You, me, and salute to the to Ant. We used to like just thread bro.
Oh yeah, lot. I didn't get him. I was like, what? Who is he? I don't understand it.
And
I get him now.
You gotta give Don Callis his flowers in regards to what he does as a manager and as a mind in professional wrestling. You can't convince me that a person who's been in professional wrestling this long, gone through working with so many talented people within generations and generations, isn't helping this young guy out, get all the tools and get stuff together.
Absolutely.
Him and Takeshita.
I am with you 100% on Callis. Yes, I couldn't agree more. And David, I'm going to toss this to you right now because I got to ask you not only about that one, but obviously we'll get to Brody King and Claudio in a minute. But give us your thoughts on Fletcher and everything with the Shelton match and all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of both guys. I liked both of their matches from the C2 last week. I liked it was Benjamin versus Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher wrestled. Who did Kyle Fletcher wrestle? Beast Mortos. Both in very good matches. I was expecting this to be great, and it was very, very, very good match. I think Fletcher winning was the right choice. I think it gives him some strength in the block, which is what he really needs in this tournament. This tournament needs to be used to catapult Kyle Fletcher up if the Will Ospreay match didn't already do that. I'd like to make a claim about Don Callis in particular, because I completely agree with what you said, Shad. I think that Don Callis is the next Bobby Heenan. And Bobby Heenan is my favorite. Not even my favorite. My favorite would be Paul Bearer, but the best wrestling manager to ever do it. And obviously, there's lots of different types of wrestling managers. Heyman Paul Heyman, I should say, is a very specific type of manager, same as Nana is a very specific type of manager. To me, like, Callis gives the Heenan vibe in that he is just slimy enough for you to want to get his comeuppance, brilliant on commentary in a way that, like, you know, able to be on commentary and manage at the same time, and really get his guys over. I think that his presentation of both Carl Fletcher and Takeshita has been terrific. Brian Cage and Lance Archer less so, but that's not his fault. We'll get to them at the Dynamite Battle Royal, I'm sure. But like, the work that he's done with both of those guys has been extraordinary, and he knows exactly where to pitch it. The fact that he has multiple clients who are successful shows that he is somebody who you should want to be with. And yeah, I think that he's done a marvelous job with Carl Fletcher and indeed with Takeshita. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. And I'll pass you back before I go on to Brody and Claudio.
We'll get to
one more
that
thing.
too.
One more
Go
thing.
ahead.
The backstage segment where Shelton was admonished by the rest of the Hurt Syndicate. Very good segment, because it
Yes.
you know, never read as a breakup, never read as dissension, just read as a group holding each other to a high standard, and that will build Shelton. Shelton has got, the thing is, Shelton has to win next week. I'll take it back if Shelton doesn't win next week. But I
agree.
can't remember who he's wrestling.
It is kind of a must-win,
but
not
like,
to go with
or not even if he wins, he's got to come out more fired up, more angry, more aggressive, and more. You have to see that transition, because it's stuff like that is where the Continental Classic builds these stories, which at the moment it's the same thing as last year. Last year I complained it took them 3 or 4 weeks to get stories going. They are building stories, but you need to get those narratives in and get those hooks in, and that will be a good hook. Is Shelton going on this run after being fired up by Callis? No, by Hurt.
It is kind of fascinating, though, David, because you brought up that point last year, and I agreed with you 100% last year. This year feels a little bit different, though. Even the early matches where there isn't quite storyline yet feel different this year for some reason to me. Like, the way that it was set up, I don't know. And it shouldn't be the case, right? You would think the newer, fresher year, last year, right? The earlier year, you would get that feeling. But this year, to me, maybe it was the way that the brackets were done. I think the blue and gold were just so well done this year. There were such enticing matchups that, like, you look at it on paper, it's hard to complain.
And it's trial and tribulations too, right? You learn from your mistakes. So last year it was a brand new thing. Obviously, it's something that they've mirrored off of what we see out in Japan.
Year 3?
No, year 2.
This is 2.
This is year 2.
2,
yeah.
Sorry, because it was Eddie Kingston, John Moxley was the final last year, and that was the first one they did, because there was the Eddie Kingston was the inaugural champ. You know the reason I think it is? Partly because I've not seen a great. I think the matches in the first few weeks have been stronger, consistently stronger than they were last year, which is always helpful when you have less story. But the other reason is, with this year, we have more trust. You know how, because like I've heard this statement put around a lot, particularly by people like Archie and others with WWE, where it's, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because I know that it will probably come good. With the Continental Classic, I don't think the tribulation of it, are these stories going to develop, is there anymore, because we saw last year that it started slow and it built. So this year we know that's going to happen. We know that it's going to start with good matches and build to good stories. So we're willing to just invest in the good matches because we know it's coming. So we have that level of trust that we might not have had last year when it was still an unknown commodity.
Okay, so let's continue this segment and we'll extend it. We got to be careful here with time. But when it comes to Brody and Claudio, and David, I'll go right back to you when it comes to this one. Interesting, you have Brody King standing over Darby Allin, who basically stood tall as the Death Riders hightailed it out of our most recent pay-per-view finale, right? Of course, he got in a car accident. It makes sense that Brody King, 7 feet tall, would then defeat him in a match merely 3 days later, right? Okay, that's fair. Oh, I can wrap my brain around that. And not only that, we know about their friendship through music and their history together. So he stands over him and doesn't allow Claudio to use the chair on him. But then Claudio picks up the win. I don't know about this one. It's a huge win for the Death Riders, but what does it mean for this entire storyline? Speaking of storylines, that link there bothers me. Because now he's got to win against the guy that beat the guy. It's like, I don't know. Explain.
I mean, this is kind of how tournaments work, isn't it? Really, you sort of do have to sort of leave that one behind. I think. Here's the thing. I think that with this match, which I thought was a really good match, it's Claudio Castagnoli and Brody King. They are the two most reliable tournament performers in this bracket, other than Osprey. So, like, you knew what you were going to get. You knew it was going to be a great match regardless, because, again, it's Claudio and it's Brody. You kind of had to go one or the other. You either really went behind Brody or you really went behind Claudio, because obviously both won their match last week. I think it's nice to see Claudio get some momentum, because the problem you usually have with stables is, like, the leader gets the win and the rest are used as cannon fodder. So it's nice to see that Claudio is not being used as cannon fodder. I thought it was the right decision to have Claudio go over here. I think Brody can work as a sideshow attraction, as a big man, whereas Claudio, I think, needs the momentum more at the moment to sort of fuel his central storyline. I agree. I agree with the thing with Darby, but I also think that Claudio needs to get himself a dominant position in this bracket, and I think to do that you have to win. So
that's fair.
I'm happy to see Claudio not being used as jobber to the stars, because that was my worry.
And truth be told, the fact that he hit the neutralizer on a 7-footer, right? Like, and I felt like the lariat victory over Ricochet was a little disrespectful to Ricochet last week. So I had like yeah,
it was a flat finish because the crowd didn't know that was going to be it. So they counted the 3 and it was like, oh, all right, I suppose.
Shad, do you have any more to add about the classic, or should we start talking?
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, you guys kind of hit it all there. I'll say this. I hope Brody King is able to kind of pick up the sticks and, make a fighter's chance in this, just because him being the dominant brute force, I feel like he should just be the favorite just off of strength and size. But I'm happy for Claudio. I share a lot of the same thoughts as David, where I'm glad that he's not, looking like just the odd man out. He looks like a viable threat, and it also keeps the, hottest faction in AEW, steaming in the same way with him looking strong.
100%. Okay. Let's get to our next. Let's get to this one, because I've been excited to talk about it since yesterday. I've been making one big suggestion. Wait a minute. Did Ben not? Okay, this is ridiculous. I can't do that topic on the graphics. The Dynamite doesn't. I have the other ones.
It's all good. We're talking about the Dynamite Diamond.
It's the other one. He uploaded 3 of 4. And I was gonna pump up Ben for this, like, on the 3rd one, but like, okay, whatever. We're talking Dynamite Dozen. We're talking about the Battle Royal. That's what's happening.
Yep.
And like, is it up? Is that what you're saying?
No, he's being helpful to people know what it is.
This is what we're talking about.
It's the Dynamite Dozen.
He's being Vanna White for us.
We're on the second topic, everybody. Okay. And so the Dynamite Dozen is,
oh my God, bro.
It was a Battle Royal, and we've got pretty much who everybody expected, and that's Kyle O'Reilly and Mr. Adam Cole, baby. They're gonna figure out who faces MJF before he finally does the Michael Jordan 6 rings picture. Like I said yesterday, we all know it's happening. They have to. You have the MJ in the initial picture with all 6 of his championship rings. Michael Jordan, Air Jordan, his airness himself. All Max has to do is add the F. And if you don't sell merch with Max doing the thinking man pose with 2 on his pointer finger and rings on the rest of the hand and sell that, It is the biggest stone left unturned in AEW history, and it's not close. MJF needs to get his 6th ring in honor of Michael Jordan here. Shad, your thoughts, though, on the potential of 2 quarters, I apologize, of the artists formerly known as the Undisputed Era, potentially taking on Maxwell Jacob Friedman for that 6th ring.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, the concept of the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal is pretty interesting because MJF is that big of a bad guy where he got all his ops fighting each other in a tournament to get an opportunity to fight him. I just thought that in general is a funny dynamic, but it was a cool battle royal. I thought the finish, obviously, with both of them hitting the same move to get both of the big guys out, Archer and Cage, was a pretty, dope finish. Nothing to write home about. I thought it was solid. But Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole. Man, I know a lot of people feel like this story is not the best and it's took and diverted in different directions. I actually found a bit of interest from it having a Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole dynamic to it with the Battle Royal. I might be alone on this take. I might be alone thinking that, but this moved me a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. It moved me a little bit.
I like that.
And I think it's just the concept that I like Kyle O'Reilly in the storyline a lot because he is got a point to prove more than anything. I think a lot of it is him being a valid friend, but I do think a lot of it is also him feeling like, yo, I've had time lost. I've been out due to medical reasons, injuries, so on and so forth. I've kind of feel like I've been the third wheel in any situation of a faction. This can be a career defying moment for him in a way. And that's why I find interest of it. Also, just the fact that I want to see Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly wrestle. Now, when it comes to the match and the outcome and going against MJF, it's either 2 directions. You're going to get that graphic if Kyle O'Reilly finds a way to win. But if it's Adam Cole, I don't know. I think Adam Cole will beat MJF in the situation. So
I wish I had fake rings to do that MJ pose.
Yeah, but to me, it's interesting. I feel like I don't think it's as obvious next week, just because I don't know if we're gonna go for MJF and Cole that quickly. Because I do think him and O'Reilly will square off before that. So part of me feels like some shenanigans will occur. MJF might find a way to help Kyle O'Reilly win. And then we'll get him and Cole later. And I know a lot of people going, no, man, we got to end this quick. Just let it play out.
David, I'm going to give you the chance really quickly, but I will say this, Shad. My belief is next week it'll be not MJF, but MJ. That's all I'm saying.
All week you've been thinking of that one.
Go ahead, David.
So I just wanted to bring this quickly because I think this is the most rampage match I've ever seen in my life that should have been nowhere near Dynamite. And the reason for that, the reason for that is I don't hate this story necessarily. I think it's a mess, but I don't hate it. But I do feel a little bit like we're at the point now where if anyone's ever seen Monty Python, at the bit where they go, yes, get on with it. Yes, get on with it. That's what I feel like I'm at. If you just look at the people in this match, in the Dynamite Battle Royal, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly fight. Action Andretti doing nothing. Brian Cage doing nothing. Dante Martin doing nothing.
Honestly, though, wait a minute. I will say this, though. I know where you're going with this. The elimination spot was very creative with Andretti on Top Flight. It was really cool.
They're all good. They are all they've all got stories, Leo Rush, Mark Davis, Rocky Romero, the Butcher. Why's the Butcher there? Like
Mark Davis got out pretty quickly too, though. By the way,
Andy Williams. Good
like
guy.
Mark Davis,
Buffalo.
the only other person who realistically could have given them a run for their money. Boom, gone. And so it was like the thing is, they're all good. I'm not knocking any of the talents involved. All those talents are brilliant. I love Lance Archer. I love Evil Uno. I love all those guys. But when you have a match that none of the big stars actually want to win, then what's kind of the point of? Or it was a match that the match itself was, I thought, quite boring because I just didn't care. I knew Kyle and Adam were going to win, so this felt like a formality you had to get through to get to the match next week. It's like stick it on Rampage that nobody's going to watch, but me. Just or if you have to just find, or put some people in it that you can at least have some really
Right.
spectacular action. I didn't like, this. It's just I watched it. It's just a bit like, I literally
It
sort of
got very
1.25 times
predictable
speed. I was a
the
little bit like,
more
come on,
eliminations happened.
come on, come on. It didn't work for me at all. Not necessarily the quality of the wrestling, just why put a match on if I can, like, with all those guys in it, and it's like this is just like to say that we've done it. It would waste time.
Totally fair. Totally fair. I hear you. Okay, we got to keep it rolling here. And so I'm going to do the fastest ad read, fastest hands in the West here. If you haven't checked out Demand Progress Plus, use code WatchProgress1. You're going to get 50% off your first month on Demand Progress Plus, the home of Progress, Defy, and many more promotions. Thank you so much. You're going to love Progress Wrestling. If you haven't already checked it out, every chapter gets better and better. One more time, that code is used. Watch Progress 1, 50% off your first month. That's one half for people that prefer fractions like myself. Let's move on to a segment we do have a graphic for, which is Anna Jay is the next for Monet. And I was going to give Ben Allison for doing a pseudo bar in the graphics, but because we didn't have the Dynamite Dozen one, you can't have credit, Ben. Nope, doesn't count. It's a good rhyme, but not this time, my friend. That's all I'm saying. David, Anna Jay, next for Monet. She defeats Penelope Ford last night. I don't know. Your thoughts on this? Is it finally time we get an Anna Jay push?
Well, this is funny because I've seen so many different reactions to this Anna Jay versus Penelope Ford match. I've seen people hate it. Ben loved it. We had lots of different reactions in the chat. So I was a little bit late to Dynamite this week, so I saw all the reactions before I watched the match, and I sat down and I watched the match. I thought it was all right. I thought it was fine. I think it was wrestling, decent wrestling, because Penelope Ford is really good, and Anna Jay has got a lot better since she went to the 5-star Grand Prix in Stardom, which she looked very good. She does mesh very well with Japanese wrestlers. I think probably more so than some of her American counterparts, if I'm honest. But I think it did do her a lot of good, and I do think Anna Jay is a great feud for Monet and a good spotlight for Anna Jay. Of course, I think we should give her the time, Anna, because the AEW Women's Division needs these stars. They need these names, and if you can build Anna Jay, fantastic. There's, for the fact that it was only one match, and I thought a fairly bog standard match, there is some decent story building in this show with the Anna Jay Monet stuff. Mariah had an interview for Shirakawa. We had the Jamie Hayter and Julia Hart stuff. You had, this as well, Penelope Ford, etc. So, it wasn't great, weren't high art, but there were some small developments here. And I do think Anna Jay is talented, and I do think that Anna Jay should be pushed up the card. I also think the same thing about people like Queen Aminata and people like that. But for me, this particular match in isolation, I didn't find the things that people were complaining about, especially a couple of iffy spots, particularly around, the Irish whips and things like that. I agree with that from some of the criticisms I've read. But for me, it was just a lot of fine. And it was, a bog standard, solid wrestling match, but not at the standard of some of the other matches on the card. But, I think as a broader point, I could have done with a second women's match here because we are starting to really we're starting to push stuff. There are things in the pipeline. It's not a lost cause. It just, to me, it was a bit like, oh, we need a match. Here's this, enjoy. And we can do better than that.
I'm with you there. Go ahead, Shad.
I'm gonna say this. I'm excited because I'm going to be there live for in DC, the Holiday Dynamite, Mercedes Moné versus Anna Jay. My wife is super excited because she's a big Sasha Banks Mercedes fan. This match, and I know she might not win the match, and I'm not trying to put pressure on you, Anna Jay. This is a career-defying match it's sink or swim how you do versus Mercedes Moné. You going in the ring versus one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. So no pressure. She's got to really show out. There's something missing with her to me. I don't know what it is. Anna Jay she's got the look. She's not horrible in ring, all of that. Maybe it's not comfortable on the mic. Maybe it's not much of a character, but she's missing something, and something's got to connect at some point.
That is totally fair, but also, Shad,
and Mercedes smoked her on the mic last night.
So since we didn't have that graphic for the Dynamite Dozen one where we could switch to that so that everyone knew exactly what we were talking about, I'm gonna add a bonus segment and do it one more time. Because we got to talk about Swerve versus Max Caster, Shoddy. I mean, you're the resident rhyme book in the building, Shoddy. I can't let the show go on.
This will take a couple seconds. Don't worry about it. How many times are you going to recycle the same damn punchline, Max? How many times are we going to hear a Joe Biden, Hunter Biden reference every single time? Y'all let this dude slide with the most trash freestyles every week. He takes a current event and tries to make shock value. A lot of it is pseudo political stuff. It is absolute garbage. Swerve pissed down that boy's leg last night. And how he was acting all cocky in front of the Acclaimed, whatever, man. You cutting ties off of the people that held you down for a while. And I know this may be the end of it. I really don't care. You need to get better with your raps. If you need a ghostwriter, I'm right here, bro. Slide me a couple $100 a week. I will write you some fire bars. Watch my battles.
Let's go, Sean.
I don't even care about the match. His raps are just trash.
I am so with you. I mean, obviously the match was pretty what it should have been. I will say
Swerve. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. I will say about Swerve. He looks like he might have gone to the same doctor as Randy Orton. That's all I'm saying. Swerve 25 pounds heavier than he was 3 months ago. Or am I the only one that saw that last night?
He looked
like, wait a minute. When did he get yoked? I did not see that coming. I think they got the same. They're doing the same lifting program. They're doing all the protein.
Him and Bob, he said he ain't done with Lashley, so Lashley and Shelton are both big boys.
I was like, when did Swerve go from freaking cornerback to free safety? I didn't see that coming.
By the way, man, if y'all haven't or anybody hasn't watched it, I don't want to plug other people's stuff, but I love Chris Van Vliet's interviews. Him and Lashley was a good interview episode.
Yes, very cool.
Very good one. So
CVV Monster shout out. He's in SoCal too. The fog has been crazy today, so
but he's Canadian.
It's cool that we shouted him out. Yeah, but he lives here.
He's like you and Kobe if y'all did the fusion dance.
No, he moved. He moved here. I did too, though. I'm Chicagoan. Chicagoan. I'm from Chicago.
Oh, man.
Either way, let's get into our final segment, which is the return of the man in the jeans. This time, though, he didn't necessarily just return in jeans. He brought a cable with him. He brought a cord with him. Get those hands in your pocket, David. This is about you. Talk about this. We know your love for Orange Cassidy. He's back.
I love him so much. And I thought he was great here. I love the attack. I really like the post-match here. If I'm honest, Jay White and Pac should have closed the show. And I think the fact they didn't hurt the match. I think that the post, it was a good angle to end the show on. I think that's sorry, I put my leg around slightly then. But I think that the match was good. I don't think it was as good as it could have been considering it's Pac and Jay White. You know, that is a sort of main event level match, and it kind of died a little bit somewhere in the middle of the show for me. But it was still very good because they're both brilliant wrestlers. And I think that the main talking point here is the post-match. Ben, Allison theorized Hangman Page, John Moxley, Jay White, Orange Cassidy. I think that'll be a good four-way for World's End, though I agree with Ben that it doesn't entirely make sense because of people having lost matches, etc. For me, I would stick to Hangman. I also think there's Christian Cage as well, who's loitering. You know, they've got the Hammerstein stuff with Hook and Nick Wayne, so they're clearly moving that back a little bit. The Christian Cage Nick Hook stuff. So yeah, 5-way, 4-way. Where are we going? I'm curious, and I think it's a really good story. I think it's really well told. I think the physicality of John Moxley is terrific. I think the acting of Hangman Page is great, and you know, I love how much they're protecting the Blade Runner. So yeah, overall, really, really happy with the segment. Like I said, the match I wanted to be just a bit better than it. I wanted it to be a show steal and not another good, solid card match. But the post match angle really made up for me, and yeah, great to see Pockets back. Love
Good old
OC.
OC. I'm with you. Yeah, and I do hear you. I love that you mentioned the way they've protected the Blade Runner. I think that's so appropriate. That's so key because it's, to me, with where Jay White's at currently, it's like that's the wild card he has in his bag. Is like, oh, but if he hits the Blade Runner, it really is over.
Yeah.
Like, period.
Which is
right?
what they did in New Japan. In New
Yeah.
Japan, they did a great job of protecting the Blade Runner by countering it. There was a, you know, because New Japan had their big sequences, so there'd be a lot of slip outs, there'd be a lot of counters into other moves. But
And as
once
weird
the Blade
as this
Runner was hit,
sounds, to your point even further, David, not to interrupt you, but just before I lose the train of thought, because I'm kind of on fire here when it comes to the Jay White thing. Like, for a heel, he's one of the best in the business at fighting from underneath.
Yeah.
So the fact that he can just sort of pull almost the way that Orton can do that as the Viper, right? Nobody ever called Orton's moveset at the end the 5 moves of doom. But guess what? He hits the same DDT, the same turnover power slam. He did the same thing Cena did. The idea that just out of nowhere, just like the RKO, the Blade Runner can happen and it's game. That's it.
Yeah.
It is such a valuable tool. And like you said, it's what they established in New Japan. To continue that over here in AEW, I'm nothing short of impressed with it. And I'm with you on that. Shoddy, though, got to ask you about all this stuff, too. We've got the return of OC. We've got a bunch going on. We got Jay White. We've got everything. Talk to me about it.
So this Monday, I had a quote about the finish on Monday Night Raw, and I said, it's an art when you can intertwine 4 to 5 individuals and storylines and get them all synced together. Today, Thursday, talking about AEW Dynamite, I must say, it is an art when you can intertwine 4 to 5 individuals and storylines and get them all synced together. I absolutely love it, bro. I thought the match was good. I enjoyed the match a lot. Jay White is so incredible as a professional wrestler. I feel he's like a guy who's finally picking up steam. And then Pac is one of the best in-ring wrestlers that you have on the roster. So I thought they delivered. It was a great match. You had everything with the shenanigans of, Wheeler Yuta trying to come in and help him out, but it isn't enough. And yet the Blade Runner, one of the dopest finishing moves in pro wrestling. But post-match stuff, man, I love everything that is kind of creating in the storyline with the Death Riders and Moxley right now. Him being the champ, him trying to get his guys, his hounds, especially Marina Shafir, to kind of eliminate all the other competition and really revive AEW and his image of what he views it to be. But it also intertwining against some talented people and not a lot of focal faces, not a lot of focal, like anybody could be a face or a heel, right? You got Hangman, who's relatively a heel, who's part of the storyline. You got OC, who's a baby face and with his big return. You got Jay White, who's kind of a tweener, and then you got Christian Cage. So it really makes you appreciate the fact that we're not, stuck in the mind frame of like, you need babyface heel one-on-one. That's it. You can kind of mesh everything together because we've seen stuff like that happen back in the day. With when we start watching wrestling, like around the Attitude Era, and the Ruthless Aggression era and stuff like that. So it's cool to see. And yeah, man, Orange Cassidy, bro, he's like the most lovable babyface on the roster in AEW, man. Like you always want to root for him. He's the cool guy, like that little dog meme that's popular.
Yeah.
He's got that vibe, but Mox has created a ticking time bomb. He's put a battery in his back where he feels like he needs to retaliate. So him, being out in a hoodie doing that, it was dope to see.
Awesome.
And I just gotta say one last thing though. He tipped Marina Shafir over. He threw her over a little bit because she was trying to choke him out, and he threw over. He ain't hit her. He's self-defense. We gotta he gotta call a girl up, and someone's gotta beat her ass. Like they can't let her beat the shit out of her.
I think a little bit of maybe. I mean, that could be stat. Alien stat. The return of Alien stat.
The boop.
One of his former best friends.
I know Willow is the one that we talk about a lot.
I was going to say, I wonder who the person was that took out Marina Shafir at Full Gear, only to then not be seen. Like she has been seen since she's doing stuff on Collision. She hasn't disappeared, but it feels very strange that she did that and then immediately went, yeah, okay, I'm going to go and do this instead.
Before we go home, though, guys, I have an interesting thing when it comes to the storyline, and this has been my only complaint about it, right? Because I really actually love the work that Moxley and the Death Riders and Shafir have done. But what I want is that their view of AEW is something that we don't want. That needs to be thrown in our face.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't quite that, because their view of AEW with the direct action isn't actually the worst thing. And I've started to think about that lately, right? They bring the action to everybody. They bring the fight to everyone. And I'm starting to get to a stage where the longer they do this, the more I'm going to like that.
Like them.
Right?
That's very fair.
And it's just, that's something that, it's kind of a fear of mine when it comes to this whole storyline is like, I like the idea of everybody that crosses them, everybody that they disagree with, they bring it to. That's cool. At the end of the day.
Question of the day is who's a more scarier enforcer, Marina or Jacob Fatu?
It's a tie. That's a tie. That's a tie.
I love Marina. She's terrifying, but no, I don't think anybody scares me as much as Jacob.
Jacob Fatu is scary, but I'll tell you what, Jay White's face turned purple in that Ezekiel choke.
Yeah,
it turned purple.
We talked about it last week. She'll being
put her
booked
forearm
as
on your jugular,
the strongest woman,
and make
in
it look
AEW.
like it's a hug. It looks like she's hugging you.
They're gonna need to put her in a title picture eventually, and she very well may need to be a champion eventually, because she's the most imposing women's superstar on the roster, and she doesn't even wrestle anybody yet.
When you walk around with a bag full of like a duffel bag full of blood chokes, like Marina Shafir does, it's ridiculous. She can make you go unconscious when you don't even know that you're being choked.
You got, and this is another person. You got to give Moxley credit. He sees the vision in her, and he really took her under his wing and helped mold her to what she should have always been. This is a star on your roster, given booking, all of that, because the talent's there. Is just how you present them.
Well, I mean, 100%. In Marina, it's like, like there's the McDojo classic, like, pressure point type stuff, silly stuff like that. Like she has a bag full of like put you to bed stuff.
Yeah.
That like every day of her life. Yeah. And it's like
her submit, like her being a judo expert, and just her submissions look so, even her like judo slam.
Catch wrestling,
clean, bro.
She's trained in so many grappling disciplines. She's got good freestyle wrestling. She's got all of that. We could go on for hours and hours. I will say that probably brings us to the end of the show, my friends.
Sure.
Thank you so much on behalf of me, Clark Taylor, David, Shad, everybody at WR. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. That helps us out a ton. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Actually, at the normal time. That's noon Pacific. That's 3 o'clock in the East, 8 over in the UK, of course, 9 a.m. in Hawaii. Have an excellent Thursday afternoon. Check out all the wrestling this weekend, and we will talk to y'all soon. Thank you.